That always puts me in a great mood. So welcome, guys. Today we're going to look at what's cool in cannabis. What's in, what's out, what's a 420 lifestyle. Like, okay, have you heard of puff and paint, yoga and weed, consumption lounges, hotels promoting cannabis weekends, and more. It's all very, very exciting what's happening in the world of cannabis. And you are live on 420 Spiritual Living with Joan of Angels. And today we are going to be talking with our guest in a few minutes about the latest trends in cannabis living, cannabis lifestyle. And I'm very, very excited to bring him in. But before we do that, we have to do our 420 ritual. All right. So everybody who is here, we are going to start. I'm so happy to see you all. And I also want to tell you, if you're new to my channel, please make sure you subscribe, like, and share so we can expand this tribe and grow it out. Let us know where you're from so we can actually feel that connection around the country or even around the world when we have all those people from everywhere. And this is just our time to kick back and step into a new kind of consciousness. And this is the work that I do. I connect with the spirit guides of cannabis and with the angelic and spirit guide realms. And they're the ones who have prompted this show, which is why we call it Spiritual Living. So, which has all those aspects. And so that's what I find so fascinating. So guys, it's now 4:23, but 4:20. So I want everyone to take a deep breath in with me as we do the bell, the bowl. That's right. And I'm just imagining that you're in your home, your sanctuary, and you have your favorite cannabis strain. And in fact, if you want to put that cannabis strain in those comments, what you are smoking or imbibing, I think Alex and I will actually have a good time with that. So where are you from and what are you smoking? All right, so take another deep breath in and let it all out. And just send your roots down to the center of the earth, your antenna up that way, and let's hold that container and welcome all of you from around the world. And so we have a little special message for you today. And I felt like doing it today, bringing out the animal cards to give a message of what I know many of you have animals, dogs and cats. Our guest Alex has a dog. And so in honor of Alex, we're going to pull an animal card. And oh my God, it's my favorite kind of card. And I'm going to tell you about it because this is so good. It's a card of grounding. And what do you think imbibing your cannabis right now in this group is doing for you? It's bringing in a sense of grounding. So whale your soul's path. Honor your soul's purpose. So I love that, honor your soul's purpose. But even more than that, I think we should honor taking one more toke, all of you, and I'll show you my beautiful pipe that I'm going to hold in honor. But take another deep breath in, guys, and ground, send those roots, and think of the whales and that kind of stabilizing energy that they have. And so that's the kind of day we are going to have. So I want to share with you about my guest a little bit. And I'm going to tell you all about him a lot when he comes on, but I want to share this with you. He is a cannabis enthusiast. He is the publisher for Aloft magazine. He is an award-winning Cultural Cannabis Influencer of the Year. He's a member and now actually on the board of directors of the Coachella Valley Alliance Network. Okay, since 2017, he's been with them. He is an accomplished brand advertising and strategic services professional. And really particularly, we're going to talk about him being publisher and editor-in-chief of Aloft magazine, which is the place to listen and participate in celebrating the lifestyle benefits people receive from their consumption of cannabis, psychedelics, and other plant-based medicines. We strive to elevate the conversation on normalization, knowledge, and harm reduction of psychotropics while bringing the education and entertainment value to our community. So this is Alex, guys. I'm so happy that you're all going to get to meet him. We're going to bring him up now. There he is. Up, and there's your dog.
This is, say hi to Jojo. Jojo has been getting in a habit. Every time I get on the video call, he wants to sit on my lap and say hi. So here he is.
Oh my goodness. Jojo, huh?
This is Jojo. This is one of my 3 sons.
You have 2 others.
Yeah.
Well, no
they're
wonder.
Off somewhere over in the distance there.
So they're not into the communications aspect.
Yeah, they're like, let me sleep on this cool floor because, it's summertime. That's what we do.
Well, just, today is actually the coolest day we've had over here in Desert Hot Springs for a long time. I could actually take a walk after this show if I wanted to. Like, that's revolutionary. So for all of you who don't know, Alex and I both live in Coachella Valley. And I met Alex for the first time at actually a cannabis networking meeting that Robin ran. And I was so surprised to meet Alex. And it was the first time I had ever stepped foot out there. And Alex and I bonded right away and discovered, because I always ask people's birthdays, that first day I actually discovered his birthday was the same as mine. And that bonded us together in a big way, right?
Right. That was great. I think that was at the Saguaro Hotel here in Palm Springs.
Yes, it is. So I know you have a background, Alex, in marketing, and I never asked you this question. Like, how did you get into cannabis as a business, as a magazine, as a lifestyle?
Oh my God. Well, I've been advocating for cannabis. I signed my first normal petition to legalize cannabis when I was 18, many, many years ago. I won't say how many, just know it's a lot. And so I've been advocating for that ever since. And when cannabis started becoming legal here in California in particular, I was intrigued by what the industry had to offer. I had already read what was happening in Colorado with a lot of people, professionals in consulting and marketing and in finance, all leaving their jobs in New York to go smoke some really good ganja in Colorado and try to bring some business sense to an industry that was just barely getting off the ground. And so I started to look at lifestyle, kind of like, what do people get to do when they get to smoke cannabis, and what are the things that you do when you're high? And so I've researched people who wrote music, who do art, who've written literature, who are philosophers, educators, scientists, and even policymakers now, as everybody's pretty much out of the canna closet, if you will. And so I thought, why not? Why not celebrate the benefits that people get from their consumption of cannabis and other psychotropics for that matter? And it's interesting to hear stories of people who have benefited from it from a medicinal standpoint, and then also people who have done athletic endeavors. We saw what happened during the Olympics with Sha'Carri Richardson. Excuse me, I just had my 420 a couple minutes ago. Little Gushments from Blaze Mota. Here's a plug for them. Blaze Mota. This is Frank from Frosty. What is it? Frosty, Heidi, and Frank, the radio show. Now it's just Frank and Heidi. But he's got his own weed company in LA, so it's really good stuff. So anyway, I was looking at all these different lifestyle things that people get to do. And that's how Aloft magazine was started. And you've actually provided some articles for us. So visit aloftmagazine.com, look up 420 Spirituality, and you'll see some of the stories that we started publishing with Joan when we first launched. Oh,
I'm going to show everyone.
Oh my God.
Right. That is the magazine. And featured lifestyle culture. It has every aspect. I love this, the dispensaries, the medicinals, the Chief Peck. I didn't actually look what that was.
Oh, Chief Peck. He's a friend of mine. I met at a Jack Canfield seminar a couple of years ago, and he's a retired Army uh, um, chief. It was his rank, but he led the physical fitness training for Army Rangers for the U.S. for about 35 years. And
Uh-huh.
when he got out, he's also done tours of duty. And so when he got out, instead of taking the meds that they'd given him, he decided to switch up the meds for CBD and for cannabis because it allowed him to deal with his PTSD and also allowed him to function. And he's actually a coach out in the world now, working with veterans and trying to get them into this world of cannabis from a medicinal standpoint. So he's got some really great stories on the website as well.
What, you had some really, let's go back and look at the website again. There's some really exciting things I think about that you have. And you want to tell me what you'd like me to show everyone?
Well, you can show the front page so that people can see what we've got. And then there's these different sections that we have. So what we've been endeavoring to do is on a monthly basis. And, it's been rough getting back after pandemic. And now we're back in pandemic and now we're not. I don't know what we're doing. But, a lot of the great things that I get to do and work with people that provide stories is to really get to know what people are doing in cannabis. So I've gotten to interview some comedians. There's actually the Hempworx comedy show that is happening here in San Diego, in Orange County, in LA, with a group of comics that are nicely elevated doing their craft of stand-up comedy.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, they've done it at the Vault in Cathedral City here in the Coachella Valley. Yeah. And so and then I've talked to people who work with herbal remedies using cannabis as well as part of the ingredients that they've put together. And they've really mastered how to use plant medicine with roots and old world ancient remedies that were handed down from their family to what they now produce now. So they've got over 80 remedies. That's Alchemy Elevated. You can check them out on Instagram as well. And she's been able to do some really, really great work.
So how did you started by then launching Aloft magazine, which I love, by the way, your tagline, stay elevated. Stay lifted. Stay lifted. Oh, you know what? Because I was thinking of the alchemy. I do it all the time. I put two words together, two thoughts together.
I get it. No, but so there are a group of people, contributing writers that have written about different subjects, from sex and cannabis to spirituality and cannabis, to films. We still have the top 50 films that stoners love to watch while they're high, from Pineapple Express to Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke and everything in between that has come out. And so we wanted to make it sort of like a blend between Esquire and Vanity Fair with a little bit of Mad Magazine thrown into the space as well. So you'll find some entertaining content on the website.
Yes, and guys, you'll find some articles by me also on the spiritual aspect, intuition, staying positive, focused.
That's
kind
in
of
the
a
420
lifestyle.
Spirituality tab.
Oh yeah, that's where you're going to find me, guys. Yes, I love your magazine, and so can they sign up for it? By the way.
Yeah, if you visit online, one of the things that we've been building is our email blasts. So we're about getting ready to relaunch that real soon, as we're going to be attending some events. It's funny, all the cannabis events, the cool ones, happen in the fall. So there's going to be a few trips to Las Vegas for some of the events that are happening there.
And what happens at these events, Alex? Like, what happens at them?
It
What kind of
depends on which one you go to. So I interviewed a few people. I'm actually finishing up the story. It'll publish probably this Sunday on the Cannabis Wedding Expo. And this is a lifestyle expo that focuses on how people are trading in alcohol for their wedding receptions and celebrations with cannabis or cannabis infused beverages or cannabis infused food. So it's kind of really interesting to see the dynamic. And it's the 8th year they've been doing this now. So
wow.
Aloft magazine is going to see if we can bring them to the desert sometime in 2022, so that we can have the Cannabis Wedding Expo here. You know, we have a lot of weddings in the desert. Southern California is like a great place for people to come out and get married. People go to the beach and get married on the beach, or they have a reception somewhere. And depending on pretty much wherever it's legal, you now have a lot of cannabis chefs and people that are doing cannabis catered dinners, where they'll have a bud tender that they'll talk to you about different cultivars or products that you can consume instead of having alcohol. And the cool thing about that is that by the time dessert comes out, everybody's pretty much chill at a cannabis wedding. And you know, you don't have that drunk uncle or drunk aunt that's out of control off in the corner, who wants to start opening gifts or doing crazy shit. So the cool thing is that just when you think you're done imbibing, now you're going to have a cake that's got cannabis or THC in it, and it's a microdose. So literally, it's like taking a small little bite out of an edible, and you get the entourage effect of everything else that you've been consuming, and then your cake starts to kick in on your dessert. I'm like, okay, wow. I would be the crazy uncle on the back saying, free bird, and everybody lights up their lighter.
What do you say to them?
Free bird. Like when the band is playing Free Bird, Leonard Skinner. Oh my God.
Oh, and then you would light up. Okay.
That's why I said I would be the crazy uncle. Now, if you would be there and you're saying, what's Free Bird? People are going to look at you and say, what planet have you been on for the last 30 years?
I love it. Oh gosh. And here we are consuming THC oil in our coffee.
Right.
Right. So I didn't watch all those stoner films. I don't know if I walked around, ever really considered myself a quote stoner, by the way, but things have shifted. It's not about that anymore. The people I find who are smoking cannabis or using cannabis are trendy, upbeat, optimistic, focused, working people.
There's some people in New York that there's probably 3 or 4 architects that I've spoken to who are a story in development, but some of the great designs and engineering challenges that they've come up with to solve, you know, architecture is a collaborative process between a designer, the architect, and an engineer. The designer wants to do something really funky, space age, out of this world kind of piece or building, and the architect says, great, this is how we would have to do it, and the architect starts to put some form to it and functionality to it, and then they give it to the engineer, who's going to say, oh my God, what are you guys on? Because you got to have the engineer to make sure that your design is structurally sound. And so when you have those 3 elements enjoying some good blunt while they come up with the design, it's really interesting to look and see what the future holds in terms of living and working spaces that they're coming up with.
Really? So is that dramatic, what they're coming up with? I mean, I understand that almost everyone in Silicon Valley, they're all using psychedelics and microdosing, not all, but many of them, and microdosing with cannabis. So it's not surprising.
They have been for almost 40 years.
Interesting. So those of you who don't know, and that's how come we came up with the brilliant iPads and all of these creative designs, I think.
Well, I mean, even the software engineers in the background, who would have thunk it that, you know, they came up with object-oriented technology, which are a set of tools that work in the background when you're on your computer. And what that is basically is when you click on something and you drag it over to the folder or you drag it to the trash, That's what object-oriented technology is and how it worked out. So these guys, they figured out what are some of the things that are going to make computers user-friendly. And I'm really talking, this is like knowing what went on in the background 40 odd years ago when everybody said, okay, I got to study computer programming. And when you went in there and you were smoking or using psychotropics and you started figuring out, well, if we're going to make the computer something for everyone, we have to make all this technology kind of work. What do you want to do? Great. Let's science the shit out of point and click. Let's science the shit out of logging in so that all the pieces that now people get to use, all those guys that were on the different types of plant medicine came up with and more.
Oh, that is so profound. Okay.
Isn't it? I mean, it's a trip to hear that. But I mean, if you think about it, Einstein, Carl Sagan, Ram Dass, so many different people had psychedelic or psychotropic experiences that began with cannabis, and some even elevated into mushrooms and psilocybin and whatnot. And what that opened up, because Carl Sagan said, and he learned this from watching Einstein, and maybe Einstein was the one who said that if you're not expanding your mind, you're missing out about 90% of what the present universe state has, because it all exists in other dimensions. They can explain it scientifically and mathematically. I can't, because I'm not a mathematician or a scientist, but they were able to then look at those dimensions and come up with E equals MC squared, for God's sakes.
But you're saying they did it because they had cannabis in their system, and they were able to.
Part of it, yeah. So they had the knowledge, obviously, because that's who they were. They were already geniuses in their own right, and to come up with different concepts and theories. Really, you had to expand your mind, as Einstein said, in order to kind of see those possibilities.
So you could receive that information.
It's out there. It's in the universe. You just got to plug into the flow of the stream of consciousness,
which can happen. So that's pretty. So that's pretty interesting. So a lot of our advanced technology was sourced with microdosing some of our favorite plants.
Well, that and probably some help from some otherworldly friends that came and dropped some of that technology on our laps.
That's true. I heard
in my belief.
The secret space program and some of that other technology is just starting to get slowly released.
Sure.
But that's another subject. So we'll go back to some of the trends that are happening. What are you finding with cannabis then around the country or here? Because I know that every day I see you on Clubhouse in Susan's State of the Cannabis. So there's a lot on Clubhouse, I noticed.
Yeah, and it's I'm so messed up about Clubhouse today because they updated the app, and I was trying to create a Clubhouse for Aloft magazine, and they said that I needed to take the app off my phone and then put the new app on instead of updating it. So I did that. Now I can't get into my Clubhouse account. It's really messed up. So I'll have to figure that out when I have a little more time.
You're so active. You're very, very active on it. And I feel like you've been in touch with all these thought leaders in cannabis.
The great thing about that is that I get to learn and listen to what people are experiencing around the country. There's so many different states that have become legal in the last 12 months that everybody is going through the growing pains and the regulation change and the packaging change, much like how we did here in California, much like how any other state has, as the cannabis industry was evolving. So there's all this stuff that happens from a business standpoint and the challenges that people are dealing with. Then I get to hear about what's happening on the policy side of it. There was this bill that was touted by New York Senator Chuck Schumer called the Cannabis Opportunity and Administration Act that they're trying to get passed in the Senate. And it's a challenge because most people, I'm one of these nerds I'm going to download the entire 186 pages and try to get through to read it. And when you read policy, it's like a whole other English language.
Oh God, yes.
And so,
that's ambitious.
but the average person doesn't understand that when you write policy, you have to actually do your research on laws that are already on the books, where you have to now take out marijuana or cannabis from those other laws, whether it was the Marijuana Tax Act, which made cannabis illegal back in the 1930s or 1920s, and then the one that was signed into law during the Nixon era, which really pushed the war on drugs, where not only did it make it legal, that's when they put it on Schedule 1 as an illegal substance from a drug standpoint. So
And we still have it.
a lot of that that's written into the back end of this one law. And when you hear it on the news, in any news outlet, I don't care about mainstream, conservative, any news outlet will tell you, these are the great things that this law is going to do, and everybody applauds it. But what they don't get to see is, here's how you're going to pay for it. So that cannabis that you buy at your legal dispensary now is going to go up 25% by, within the next 5 years, because that's where the taxes are. There are certain cannabinoids that the U.S. already patented back when they made it illegal, that they own, which are going to be turned out to the pharmaceutical industry, which means that if you make your tinctures and certain CBD products, that if you talk about these two cannabinoids, you're not going to be allowed to, because that's going to be the domain of the pharmaceutical companies. So there's a lot that's into this.
Stop right now. Can you repeat that last sentence?
Yeah. So if you create any cannabis or CBD products that use these two cannabinoids, you cannot.
CBD and THC?
There are, so in the THC world, there is, I think they're trying to get either, I think it's Delta 8, that they're trying to give that to the pharmaceutical industry. Most of us know about Delta 9, because that's what typically we get, but Delta 8 is part of the other aspect of the different cannabinoids that are in there. And so they want to be able to own that as well. So there's some crazy things that are in there, and you got to read beyond the cover and beyond what the headlines tell us, because they also have the part about expunging any federal crimes that were committed in transporting, possession, or trafficking of cannabis, that they're also wanting to do, much as a lot of states have done, where they've had record expungement, or since they decriminalized it in the state of California, for example, a lot of people that had nonviolent offenses related to cannabis were set free. And then they had to go through the process of applying to have their record expunged, so that they can be, without that stain on their record, I guess, for lack of better terms. So there's a lot of people that are still in jail today on federal charges, federal related cannabis, that should not be in jail. So that's one of the great things that's inside of this, is that those people would be released and essentially either pardoned or have their record expunged. Then you get to hear about some of the lifestyle things. So people are doing some fun things. I can tell you from my personal experience, for about 20 years, I was an extreme skier, cut up the mountains around Lake Tahoe and southern Canada and Utah. And Colorado, and each time that I was with my buddies, because there was a 6-pack of us, a wolf pack, we were smoking weed while we're on the lift, and we were going vertical, literally down the mountain, 80 miles an hour on our skis. And you had to have that motor skill ability to look 30, 40 yards ahead of you, and you're already preparing for your move. Not like you're scared and you're going to, cower as you get to that ravine that you only got 2 or 3 feet to just shoot right through. But like, okay, this is what I got to do. Tuck it all in and just come right out through that chute and get on to the next thing. So we were pretty elevated in our crazy days of going down and cutting up these mountains.
But it enhanced your skills. It enhanced
our skills.
Helped you focus and do a better job, is what you're saying, which to me would have been counterintuitive with cannabis.
So the woman at Wake Forest University back in 1988, I want to say, I can't remember her name. I wish I did, but she's the one who discovered our CB1 and CB2 receptors in our brain. And this is where they discovered that cannabis affected three different things. One of them being your motor skills, one of them being your thought process, and I forget what the third one, but it's in three different parts of our brain. And so when you enhance how your CB receptors work, then you can become a lot more agile if it's about motor skills. So, this is why they can't yet say that you are cannabis under the effects of cannabis while you're driving. Some people don't have the same intoxicating issues as alcohol, for example. They can measure your blood alcohol level and you are impaired, but it's hard to measure cannabis impairment because there's so many different cultivars and strains and levels of THC and balances of terpenes that people actually become better drivers in some instances, so there's a lot going on.
So it enhances your focus and your ability to maneuver.
Correct.
And concentrate in the moment. So you're talking exercise, you've been talking food. What about what's happening here with the hospitality and the hotels here in Coachella Valley?
In the Coachella Valley in particular, I think there's about 4 places that are 420 friendly, and they happen to be in the Desert Hot Springs, in the city of Desert Hot Springs, mostly because of the miracle water that Desert Hot Springs has. And there has been development of a property in Palm Springs that was slated to be completed in 2020, but since 2020 wasn't what it was, everything stopped. And then because, when you get development money for that, there are covenants and agreements that you have that you'll be building and developing your property for this. And there's phases that you have to go through and approve, or you lose your money. They lost their money, unfortunately. There was a place out in the city of Coachella that was going to be opened as well, but there too, financing dried up because 2020 just took the wind out of their sails.
Was that the White House, the hotel there?
Correct. Yeah. But I will tell you that because I am on the board of directors for the Hospitality Association here in Palm Springs, I don't speak on their behalf unless I'm authorized to do so. I have to have that legal disclaimer.
Off the record.
I will tell you, no, not even off the record, because it is in parts of the news out here, is that there has been more conversations about normalization. We have a couple of lounges in the Coachella Valley that are really, really good places. There's more than a couple of lounges, but 2 in particular, the Vault at Cathedral City and the 420 Dispensary and Lounge, the 420 Bank Dispensary and Lounge in Palm Springs. They're pretty chill places for you and safe places for you to go to consume. So it's really cool to have that happening and evolving, because there's so many other places that are licensed to have it, but they haven't built out their lounge part yet. And everybody's trying to look for what's going to be the right formula. So interesting to see that you can either have like a danky bar type of joint that you can go and all it is weed and you're smoking weed in this area. And they're cool to hang out. You got some chill people and stuff. Or you can have a place that kind of has a vibe, like if you're in one of those Starbucks reserves places. Starbucks has these great, amazing looking stores when they did their revamp a few years ago. And that kind of model is what some places are trying to use. And you could be like the 420 Dispensary and Lounge, where you actually have a game room inside the actual safe, the bank safe that's there, where you can play pinball and video games. Hell, you can play Pac-Man. Wow.
Don't forget the big board game, the chess. You can do that stand-up human chess.
Yeah. Well, you can play chess on it. They just don't want you to step on those tiles because they're so rough and fragile that you step on them and you can break them.
Oh! So they really don't want you playing chess on it, because
you can play chess on it. They just don't want you to step on the tiles.
I know what happens.
You got to lean over there. You got to really stretch to, move this guy.
So this is on the floor, and the pieces are a couple of feet high, maybe 18 inches, 24 inches. It's really beautiful. But
It's
Alex,
cool.
you're
I've seen that
pointing
in a
out
couple of places.
you're pointing out how interesting the consumption lounge. I like the consumption lounges because it's a great place to talk with your friends.
Right.
No one drunk is bothering you. I mean, seriously, it's kind of.
And I take my laptop with me sometimes when I want to get out of the house because I work from home now. I closed my office in February of last year. And so when I just want to get out of the house, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to block 3 hours. I'm going to go to one of my favorite places, hang out, smoke some really good cannabis, and either write, design graphics. You know, you look at our Instagram feed, and a lot of that stuff is composed art where I use 3 or 4 different elements and then put titles and graphics on there, and then I write whatever the post is about. And usually it's an inspiration from my wake and bake that I come up with whatever ideas.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm posting your links right now to Instagram, Facebook.
On your browser, if you do that picture in picture with the browser, you could actually go to Instagram /Aloft_magazine, and you'll get to our page.
And I put it in the browser. People can just copy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I love your Instagram page. And I really like that concept of yours of stay lifted.
Yeah.
To me, that is a lifestyle choice right there.
Well, it's actually a multidimensional meaning. I mean, when I thought about it, it's kind of like, if it's not about getting high, we tend to have this state of being that can be either, woe is me, this is my, or you can stay lifted and you're basically shifting your energy so that you're getting that out. That to me is part of staying lifted. Mentally, it's about staying lifted in a sense that you're not giving weight to your other selves that you have in here, the voices that are the negative ones that beat you up, and that, the voice you hear sometimes where it's like, oh no, I can't. And then also being able to have this, so consuming cannabis and the high that people get is more of a lifted feeling or uplifted feeling, as opposed to if you microdosed. I was thinking about this the other day. Microdosing tequila is doing a 1 ounce shot. And a 1 ounce shot tequila is more invasive in your body than a 1 ounce than a 1 gram pre-roll. And the effect that you get from that 1 ounce, if you do more than 1 ounce of tequila, 2 shots, a couple of drinks, that's going to get you pretty well torched, right?
Yes.
You do a couple of hits of this will last me like 2 or 3 days because I don't smoke the entire joint in one day or in one sitting. I like to enjoy it and get that same kind of lift that I get from it. So, it depends on what my strain is that I'm smoking today, and tomorrow could be a different one.
Okay, and what's the name of your strain? Because we did have some interesting strains. So, guys, make sure we get to see what you.
What were some of the cultivars? So you got to get the lingo correct now. The industry is
cultivar.
So strain is more a biologic term, and cultivar, because when you consider cannabis, she's a flower, and there are different variations of varietals of that flower. It's a cultivar when you look at those specific types of flower. So that's what it is. So this is, so I got this from, this is from Blaze Mota in LA. This is from Frank from KLOS, Frank 95.5. Listen to Frank in the morning with Heidi. This is his brand that he came up with. And he's got an interesting story about how he got into cannabis, and it really was a physical injury that got him into this. But this cultivar is called Gush Mints, and it's a Gush Mints, MINTZ, and it is a hybrid that is kind of like Gorilla Glue, Jack Herrera, for people that know that. If you're a connoisseur of cultivars, that's a nice, uplifting, creative cultivar in terms of the effect that you get. And the entourage effect over time keeps you up and moving and creating and focused like that. It's not one of those that's going to just put you like into this mellow, unfunctioning mood. So
Right.
I like it. What is everybody else smoking? I can't read that because I don't have my glasses on, and I hate
Well,
it.
we
Then
have
you
an
see two white
indica.
things.
So if we just said indica, though, that's not what you'd refer to as a cultivar, right? That's
Indica only refers to a plant that was originally from India. That's where indica comes from. And it is a smaller, shorter leaf than what a sativa cultivar is going to be. So not all indicas are the same, just as not all sativas are the same. So in the sativa world, the leaf is longer, the stalks tend to be a little bit higher, not as bushy as an indica. And there too, you're going to have, it's become so hybridized. So back in the day, the sativa that I knew was called Sinsemilla Red Hair. So out of Sinsemilla Red Hair, the OG cultivar that came up from Mexico into California, it was blended, hybridized. The cultivators are just interesting people to hear how they come up with different cultivars. That they were able to hybridize it and come up with, some of the great Jack Herrera Blue Dream, the original Blue Dream. And then when you think of Afghan Kush, that is an indica mixed with an Afghan cannabis that was imported. The seeds were imported from Afghanistan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very fascinating. Very fascinating.
The plant science that I get to listen to and learn about is phenomenal. I mean, I could, if I was focused on that, I'd have a bunch of different things around me so I could refer to it and talk to you about the plant science on that side.
That's okay. It's just giving us a touch is great.
A lot of people just want to get high, right?
Well, we have Gorilla Goo over here. I like Gorilla Goo.
Good.
I love Blue Dream. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I learned from a botanist friend of mine that the Blue Dream I smoked last year is not the same Blue Dream I'm smoking on now.
I discovered that recently.
Yeah.
And you can tell. But I think all the cannabis has been changing, and it's overwhelming. Okay, the amount of cultivars that you could get in a dispensary is infinite.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I think it's important for not only at the dispensaries that the bud tenders know what the cultivars are, so that and study, because I mean there's a lot of information that you can find on Leafly and other places that will tell you, okay, these are this is what this is like, this is how the genealogy of the plant, this is how it was created, from what the breeders will tell you. And there are some breeders out there that, to me, it's kind of like, okay, California's got the opportunity to have that nom of origin, whether it's NorCal grown or Sonoma grown or Mendocino grown, but that they should stick with particular cultivars that they have as a specialty. It's kind of like with grapes and wine. You can get some coastal grapes that make a good Chardonnay or a good Merlot, but that's going to be different than what you get from Napa or Sonoma or even Mendocino when it comes to wine. Same thing happens with weed. What we grow here in the Coachella Valley, what the different breeders have, a lot of them do what is called white label. So they're growing for other people because it's a very profitable business. You don't have to brand it and get it sold out there. Let the other people have the brands and the wherewithal to do that. Let them do that. We'll just make sure that we match the same terpene profile. So you've got the scientists in the background looking at THC content, terpene profile, what are the phytocannabinoids that are in there, so that they match that sort of genetic profile each time that they have a crop. So if they're growing Gorilla Goo this time, there's a terpene profile that they scientifically work with, and depending on the amount of light, water, and even the humidity or the dryness of the air, and then how they process it afterwards. All of that, they follow a step-by-step process to match that profile so that you get some consistency with it. And that's where I think, rather than coming up with some newfangled, there's something that's got 39% THC. That much THC may not be the thing. It might be to maintain a consistency of the level of THC and all the other terpenes so that you have a quality product that people are always going to say, you know what? I had that, what was that one that I had from Henry's? It was a Tangerine Dream, I think. And that was really, really cool to have. So, the consistency that they had was that each time I went and bought a jar of flour, I had the similar effect each time I used it. And it was a cross between Tangy and Blue Dream.
And that's what we really need, is that kind of consistency. But,
oh, sure.
So what you're getting, because you're actually self-medicating yourself. So we have some OG Kush on the right here and some Granddaddy Purple, and I want you guys to know I love those. Those are
Granddaddy Purple.
Soothing and calming, especially at the very end of the day for me.
Right.
But I like the strains, Alex, that keep me focused. So if I wake up in the morning and I have a big project or writing project, it'll help keep me both creative and focused. So
yeah.
And that's really, or when I paint, sometimes I just want to be able to drift. Or when I do readings for people, by the way, I love going into another state of consciousness when I do readings.
Oh, right.
So the other thing I realized, didn't I read recently? So cannabis is in every aspect, guys, of Coachella Valley now. It's becoming more and more normalized. And I read a few weeks ago that the Coachella Festival, isn't there a concession stand for the cannabis lounge? Isn't there a cannabis lounge?
You mean for the Coachella Music
Festival?
Festival?
The Coachella Festival, yes.
I was going to say, I didn't know Coachella was built out yet to have
festivals. No, not Coachella. That was
because they're supposed to have an amphitheater as part of their whole complex, right?
Right.
I think they just finally got approved on the electrical over there too. I had heard stories that brands are renting private properties to be able to do like hospitality get-togethers and things like that, and allow people to sample some of their product. They are ticketed events. They're very strict about not bringing in your own product, whether it's something you bought or a friend gave you. It's kind of like you can't bring your own alcohol to a concert. You have to buy it from them. So they don't want people, doing that.
So that's
and I think it was always happening sort of in the background. I mean, how many years has Coachella been going on now? 13, 14, 15 years? I don't know.
It wasn't, like now we're all going to have our hospitality lounges and our consumption lounges here right next to the property. Or
it'll be interesting when they have either an acid hut or where people are dropping acid and there's actually a company that's providing it. Or doing mushrooms.
Are you kidding? They're doing mushrooms
when
and
mushrooms become legal.
At these festivals, they're going to make it. Well, I know people use it illegal. I mean, they just use it at the festival. Oh, yeah. So I don't know why I'm surprised.
No, I mean, look at the Electric Daisy Festival. That's where ecstasy became famous when they did it in LA, and some people just didn't drink enough water and they had an episode, and so they got kicked out of LA. Now they do it in Vegas. That's one of those. That's one of those events that changes your heartbeat just because of the music and the thumping.
I can imagine already. I can imagine. So I had no idea that it's this extensive in every other aspect. So I know you can do yoga and weed. Yep. You can puff and paint. These are all the lifestyle things that people are doing.
There is a physical trainer, a weightlifter, bodybuilder, who I've met. He was a former professional athlete who actually trains people while on weed. It's something we used to do when I was training. We would smoke a joint before we'd go to the gym.
Right.
because
I don't know why I'm surprised. It's just more.
You knew you knew the manager, and so he would change the station, or you would give him a CD or a cassette tape of whatever you mixed, and he would play it for you while you were working out because that was your jam.
Wow.
A little Pink Floyd, Eagles, you know.
So you've been into this lifestyle for
rock.
a long time, Alex.
A long time, yeah. Yeah, to me, it was always, so the experimentation started as soon as I got out of high school. I mean, I've tried everything pretty much. And one of the things that I was looking for, because I had already read about Timothy Leary and mind expansion and experimentation and that kind of stuff. So I thought, I'm going to wait till I'm 18 years old so I could be responsible for myself. If I get messed up and my brain goes on the fritz, then I'm going to be the one that's going to sign myself up for the insane asylum or something, right? But that was the mindset when I decided, okay, great, I'm going to try a little weed. Great. I didn't know anything. It was just dirt weed. It was ragweed. It was nasty. And I didn't know any better. So to me, it was, oh, great, I'm smoking pot. Great, I'm going to get arrested. Great, fuck up. But then I tried acid, then I tried LSD, then I tried mushrooms, did coke, didn't do heroin, was not into needles and shit.
God.
And then finally I found somebody who had a really, really good bag of weed, for lack of better terms. And so we literally sat at the dining room table because it was a shopping bag, really big. But this was all the shake. And he said it was all the same stuff. We just had to clean off the twigs and the seeds. So I said, great, here's a little coffee cup, throw all the seeds in here. We'll do something with them later on. And we took all the twigs out. We saved the twigs because what we used to do is make the twigs into tiny, almost like pebbles. We would cut them up and put them in as pebbles. And in our bong, we would throw the pebbles on top of because they had a lot of resin in it. So we got some of that effect. And,
oh my God, I didn't know that.
That's what we used to do with our stems. We were like, no, we're not wasting it. We're not going to throw it out. We'll save it. When you're a stoner and you're sitting there watching, remember when MTV first came out, it was all about music videos. So we would sit there, on the couch in my living room, in my apartment, and there we were, cleaning weed and taking the stems and setting them aside and then getting nail clippers and making them all the same size because we were fucked up. We didn't know what we were doing. But then we thought, wow, I wonder, because it holds so much resin, if we can put this into our bong. We tried smoking it by itself. It was too harsh. So then we said, okay, great. Well, let's get some of our pot. We'll put it on there. By this time, the pot is already ground just because of the way you clean it, right? So we had ground it all up and cleaning it. And then we put, 10 or so of these little pebbles on top. Light torch that sucker, and it was a different experience altogether. It's like, wow, we invented something different.
You're just agitating me.
This is back in the 80s.
You can't get weed with twigs anymore unless you grow your own. They do not sell that kind of weed.
Or if you buy from the legacy market.
Is that another word for the?
That is for the craft growers that grow in the high desert, and they have the big mega grows up there that are getting busted.
Up in Joshua Tree in that area here?
From 29 Palms all the way out to Adelanto, in parts of San Bernardino County, the sheriff, and then parts of LA County as well.
They're getting raided because they're getting raided, right?
Well, yeah, because what they found out is that a lot of these illicit grows are actually part of the cartels from Mexico, they think.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. So now we have that issue.
And also the Asian cartels, because that's happening up in the Fresno area too, where they're busting a lot of these illicit grows, and they're finding, immigrants that are working there in the fields or in the greenhouses. And it's kind of like what you saw in the movies. If you ever saw Narcos Mexico, that's what you got to see pretty much. That's what they're seeing up there.
So there is something happening with cannabis that's changing the way, it's just changing the industry, I think.
Well, when people voted to make it legal, the thing was that they also made it so that I'll call them some of the drug dealers of those days that were dealing in weed, allowed them to become legit and pay taxes on it and do whatever. And so, it wasn't the perfect law. It never is a perfect law, but the fact of the matter is that people voted to make it legal. And there's still 80% of all the cannabis that's sold in California comes from the unlicensed market. So people that are growing, I'm not talking about the craft growers that grow in their house, the people that are just growing for their own consumption. They have whatever ailments that they treat with it, or they do it for recreational, which even I think you can have up to a certain number of plants. I don't know the actual number now.
It's 6 in California, but yes.
Yeah. So, when you got a plant that's 6 feet tall and you've been working on it like it was your favorite bonsai trees and you keep it clean and everything else, you're going to get some pretty good product off of that. And if you take care of it the right way, you can make that last a long time. If you don't, some of it's going to be subject to mold and mildew just because you didn't dry it the right way or didn't cure it for a period of time. So there's so many different aspects to growing that I tried growing many years ago, and I was like, you know what? I don't have time for this. I'm working in the advertising industry, and I don't have time to be babysitting plants at home. It's like having a child almost.
Right.
So, there's a lot that goes on out there, but there's still a huge group of people who don't want to get licensed because they've made the licensing process so messed up. In some cities, you got to pay a $15,000 license application fee, and they're not even approved. Who's got 15 grand to throw around and fill out some paperwork? And good luck, because you could hire a consultant, but the consultant's going to ask you for $50,000 because they'll get you licensed, and then they'll work with you on being compliant. So it's easier to have a liquor license and sell, liquor, because the only compliance deal that you have to deal with that is making sure that you're checking people's IDs if you don't, so you're not serving somebody that's underage. There's so many issues that they got to deal with now.
I know, and it sounds so expensive to actually, and you have to be very, very committed to get into this industry. And
and there is a silver lining. People do have the opportunity still, even if they got into it today. Because remember, when they made it legal, there were certain aspects of it that in 5 years they would open it up to large business. Well, a lot of different companies. So when you become legitimate, you set up your company as your cannabis brand, whatever it is. And if you do things right, you'll get noticed by other people that cultivate the way you do, package the way you do, market the way you do. And there's some synergies in your operation that they say, you know what, let's merge. Now you've created a bigger company. And then you've got another company from another part that says, you know what, I want to license what you guys do and how you do, but I want to do it in Arizona. So let's merge. Now you've got a company where you've got licenses in other states, and your brand is now being sold in Arizona by the guy that's making or the gal that's making it for you, following how you cultivate and how you produce your products, so there's consistency. So there's a lot that goes into
around the country.
Yeah, look, could you imagine if McDonald's, for example, were a bunch of different hamburger joints that everybody said, let's follow Mr. McDonald in the process, or Ray Kroc at the time now, and what they've come up with. So we're going to take our name off of here. We're going to call it McDonald's, put up our golden arches. Now we're going to sell millions of hamburgers. That would take forever to do that. So it's easier if you've got a company that sells a franchise, like some companies tried to do in the dispensary side of it. It was too early to get out there to do that because there was so many dispensaries that opened up. Some of the same people that were your, around the corner dealer decided to open up a storefront instead. And so, you come up with a model of trying to do the cannabis Starbucks or the cannabis McDonald's. It's not time yet. It's got to be federally legal for it to be able to work better in that regard. And there's some deep money that's out there that wants to do stuff like that. They're just waiting.
Right. And there's corporations ready to take over.
Yeah.
Also.
And the downside is that the mom and pops will slowly disappear. At some point, you're going to have, whatever
Oh
cannabis
God, I hope
company you want
not.
to call it.
I
In
hope
some
not.
places, you will.
There's a consciousness in the cannabis plant that's grown by some people where they actually infuse the cannabis with their heart space and sacred things, and it really does change the quality of the cannabis.
Right.
So,
And there's some people that are actually talking
out.
about conscious capital in the cannabis space.
That's interesting. Conscious capital.
Yeah, the people in the cannabis industry, particularly in the legal side of that, are very much committed to harm reduction. They're very much committed to sustainability, and they're very much committed to being of service to a community. So, whether you're educating or informing them on the possible positive benefits you can have with cannabis, that to them is conscious capital, is putting your money to work, because it is a sacred plant and it was given to us by the universe. So when you consider that this gift should be taken care of and people should be taken care of with it, the capitalists will find out soon enough that whatever it is, how they do it, may not be of service to the community. Everybody's going to make a shit ton of money, but the other people that are taking care of the plant, they might be more like the Trappist monks who are wanting to take care of it and have the OG of the plant and say, no, you know what? We're not selling out to you. We're going to maintain our frame of mind, take care of our people, and it'll become more tribal in that sense.
And I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah.
Alex,
great.
Great. So we've been on for quite a while, and I'm just curious if there's anything.
I can't see anything, so I don't have my glasses on, and I don't use contacts, so pretty much I see a blur here. But I can see you smile, so that's cool.
We have these great comments. Do you remember, a friend with weed is a friend indeed?
Oh, nice.
All right. And then my dear friend Watchers Talk, dirt weed. He was quite impressed. Hadn't heard that forever.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We had dirt weed. We had skunk weed.
Yeah. So he hadn't heard that. I was told you guys all lifestyle today. So Kelly does gardening and building. I think she grows her own. Uh-huh. And Jessica hasn't smoked, but I'm thinking she's using it some other way. And so now, just in case you haven't been to BC, we have that. We have BC weed is good. And this is really cute.
BC,
I like it
British
all.
Columbia. Yes, I have spoken to some people in British Columbia. I've spoken to a guy who has got his company called Pharmacist, and they help people. They do clones and they do plants for people to take home and care for them, and they teach people how to grow, how to do your own home grow.
Which is not as easy as most people think.
No.
I killed 3. So I grew one sativa. I had that sativa seed and I put it in the plant and I said, you're a weed, grow like a weed. And it did. But then the 3 indica seeds, I said, grow like a weed, and they died. So it wasn't consistent.
Were they all female seeds?
I think so. I got it from that girl Wolfpack. She sent me 3 of these great seeds. Yeah. It came in a little professional box. But I'm going to get some clones because I actually want to grow some as house plants.
I'm going to give a little plug to Oaksterdam University. When they're on Clubhouse also. And because they do certificate courses, they actually have a chancellor of the university. But they do Dale Sky Jones. You've heard her speak, yes?
I don't know.
Okay, so on Clubhouse, Oaksterdam University, if you look them up, they have some club rooms, and they have expert growers talk about not only what are you growing it in, if you're growing it indoors in your house, or if you're growing it outdoors, what's the environment like? I mean, they really break it down so that it's easy. You don't have to become a scientific whiz about growing, but they give you a lot of great tips. And the fun thing is that there's a lot of breeders that are there who've experienced, no growth seeds and things like that before, and they can actually guide you through how to make it work. All
right. So guys, this has been so amazing, Alex. The time is flown.
Yeah, thank you. Time is gone. How long have we
Time
been
is
on here? Oh my God, is it
a
5:20
little
yet?
over an hour. I know. Well, that's what happens when you're in the timeless aspect of cannabis. So,
Right.
guys, I want you all to go to Aloft Magazine, sign up, get your, stay in the loop. It's amazing.
Follow us on Instagram.
Or follow him on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
And stay in touch. We love Alex and very much appreciate you for coming on, Alex.
Thank you, Joe, and appreciate you too.
All right. Sweet. Okay, that was pretty informative. I don't know about you, but Alex, I learned a lot today, some new things. And guys, if you're in your house smoking alone, why would you want to smoke alone is what I have to say. You don't want to smoke alone, not in this world anymore. So doing it on Zoom or wherever we are right now is a good way to go. All right, guys. So I'm really grateful that you're here. You're like my 420 tribe. Makes me very happy. And if you're new to my tribe, by the way, please like, share, and subscribe. Our channel is growing. Our YouTube channel has grown by over 100 people this month. Actually, thanks to Watchers Talk also. But and thanks to all of you who are following us and finding us. So I'm really grateful. You can find me Monday nights on Miracle Mondays, and then I go live with the Step into the Miraculous, or I upload them for you all week long. So stick around and find out more. And I also want to share with you that my special work is helping you remember who you are, why you're here, and help solve not only your problems, but overcome them, shift your energy, shift your vibrational frequency, and even learn how to hear the guidance that you're always receiving. And that is what I do. And so we call that the Soul Awakening Sessions. And I just want to remind you that that's available also if you should be so interested. So meanwhile, do me a favor and check out our guests at Aloft Magazine and on Instagram. And then we will see you all next week. All right. Well, stay lifted, everyone. We will see you all next week. And thank you for being with us once again.